Welcome to the Galactic Core Podcast. Here to review the latest films and TV shows from all your favorite intergalactic universes. Now, it's time to get your geek on. Please welcome your host, the prophesized chosen one. It's Andy.
Welcome everyone back to the Galactic Core Podcast here for another fantastic episode. I'm Andy, your host, as always, to take you through everything Star Wars, Marvel, DC, anything else nerdy and geeky in between that I really want to have a chat about. As always, I've got someone with me to go through everything and discuss it and dissect it to the max. We're going to be chatting about episodes 5 from both, or is it 4? I'm confused now. Episode 5, thank you, Caleb. Episode 5 of The Boys and episode 5 of The Acolyte. As I just mentioned, fantastic guest to go through it all with me. He is 1/3 of the most beautiful podcast in all of history. Everyone, please welcome to the show Mr. Caleb Culver from Why So Sidious. How you doing, buddy? There we go. It kicked in, finally.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm really happy to be here and excited to discuss these two topics. I feel like things started to heat up in both of them.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're on the second half of both series now, so that first half is out the way. We're on the home stretch, so to speak, so we got some juicy ones going on. And whether you've been liking it or not so far, I think all we can say about this week's Acolyte is finally a really juicy episode to get into. We're going to get into The Boys first, and we're going to do The Acolyte in the second half of the episode, because I've been quite excited to be able to chat about that this week. But The Boys, Season 4, halfway through the series. Caleb, how have you been feeling about this series so far?
It hasn't been my favorite season so far, but that's a pretty high standard for this show. The first 3 seasons were almost perfect, you know?
Yeah.
So I haven't been super interested in some of the character stories. Like, that just hasn't really been intriguing me. But still, I like Firecracker and Sister Sage. They're good additions. And of course, Homelander, with his story with Ryan and Butcher, I do like that dynamic that's going on. But kind of the Starlight stuff and Kimiko and Frenchie and even Huey before this episode, it was like, it's good, but it's not as interesting as it was in the previous seasons.
Yeah, I get that, to be fair. Like, Kimiko and Frenchie's stories have been sort of very little side plots, and Frenchie's one of those maybe took an interesting turn at the end of this episode. Again, with Starlight, though, she hasn't really played that much of a major role. She's been very much a sort of in the back, sort of questioning her own existence as Starlighter. Maybe not been the most exciting bit for her, but everything kicking off, as you said, between Homelander and Butcher and Ryan has been interesting, because Ryan seems to be flipping back and forth between what he actually wants to be like with Homelander.
Right.
Butcher's whole scenario now, after we got this, like, he's taken V himself, proper V, not just temp V, in an attempt to cure himself, and he seems to have this parasite, almost like a venom type thing that bursts out when he's not really expecting it to help him. So definitely got some interesting stories to wrap up for this season. Obviously, we know season 5 going to be the final season for The Boys, so we don't necessarily need to get all the stories wrapped up this time for this season. But, the less I think we have hanging over the final season, when we all know Butcher's not going to probably die at the end of this season, and season 5 is all going to be really, or should really all be about Butcher versus Homelander. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. He has to make it till the end of the show, at least. I feel like it will be a tragic character, but yeah, he has to make it. But I do think we need maybe one member of the 7 and one member of the Boys going down at the end of this season to really build the stakes for the last season.
Well, that's an interesting comment, because the sort of odds-on favourite to really be, from the 7 anyway, to go at the end of this season seems to be A-Train.
Yeah.
He's obviously, they built him up to be someone who's obviously wanting to sort of flip. We've seen, he's helped out the Boys a few times this season already. He seems to think that he's going to get found out as the leak, which I think they still kind of, because obviously even Homelander and Sage were hinting in that last episode that they kind of know that he's the leak, even though even though the other dude got set up at the end of it by Ashley. To help A-Train out. But it seems to be going that I think there's going to be an A-Train versus Homelander showdown towards the end of the series. Because a lot of people online saying that maybe out of the 7, then the A-Train's the only one that could really stand a chance against Homelander. He is faster
He's
than
quick
him.
enough.
Yeah, he's faster than him. He's still got super strength himself. He just doesn't have impenetrable skin like Homelander, but the only one that can maybe really put any opposition against him. What do you reckon to that sort of fight?
Yeah, that'd be cool to see. It's kind of like the Flash versus Superman, you know?
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
Right. But yeah, and also with A-Train, the scenes with his brother and how his brother like won't take him back, doesn't want him in his life. So I feel like A-Train might like make this kind of sacrifice at the end to where his brother and his nephews see him in a different light.
Yeah. Seems like a good route to go down, to be fair, for him, sort of, whether he's making him a martyr for the good side or he's righting his wrongs with his family and then sort of like, goes out saving them. Seems to be the redemption arc for A-Train, doesn't it? So from the asshole that we saw in the first couple of seasons anyway.
Yeah.
But what we got
First
going on
scene.
in sorry?
First scene of the entire show.
Well, yeah, pretty much. It sets up the whole thing, doesn't it? So let me just be high off my tits and run through this human being. It's absolutely fine. But we jump into this episode, and we've got V52 Expo going on. So this was the absolute piss take out of Marvel's D23, I believe.
Yes.
The fact that they've got showcasing all the series and films that they've got going on, phases 7 through 19.
Oh my god!
With 7 to 10 being shown on screen, and they actually had the visual for like all the films they were doing. Lots of information coming out there, and we even get the return of the Guardians of Godolkin from the end of Gen V, with Kate and Sam showing up as well and doing their little sort of Freaky Friday turnaround show that they're doing, where they become each other in the show. I think it was called Flipped, if memory serves. I mean, this is obviously a bit of... I mean, I wouldn't necessarily it was a shot at Marvel, but it was obviously a bit of a piss take out of Marvel here and what they're doing. What were your thoughts on this particular little fun bit of the episode?
I actually thought it was pretty funny. Even the firecracker, and it's her praying in the church, but as she's walking, it's like a close-up of her ass. So it's like this Christian movie, but they're obviously selling sex at the same time.
Yeah.
And then we finally got the trailer for the Will Ferrell movie. It was also fun. It's like the Blind Side with A-Train kind of thing. And then when I think it was A-Train came out, he said they just finished the reshooting the reshoots, making it the most expensive TV show ever. So it's got to be good then, right? Like, oh my gosh. But speaking of A-Train, so when Sage confronts him and she's like asking him about the leak and stuff, I Will Remember You is playing in the background. So I don't know if they did that on purpose or on accident, but you can hear like the sad, like someone just died song. So
interesting.
Maybe that is a little foreshadow.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously her foreshadowing her knowledge of that it's probably him anyway, because she's like, that information didn't just run out of Crime Analytics, did it? So just hinting that he was probably, she knows. I think they know, obviously it's A-Train. This is why it's going to build up to the showdown at the end. So, I mean, you mentioned Sister Sage there. What have your thoughts been on this addition to the series? It's been an interesting one. With everything from down to the way that she just goes about her business, and she's technically the CEO of Vought right now, down to the fact that she has to, or she wants these lobotomies so she can just be normal for a while and get freaky with the deep.
Oh my gosh. I really like this character. And I do like the reasons why Homelander brought her in. Like, everyone's just a suck up. No one will speak up to him. No one will confront him on any of his things anymore because Stan Edgar's gone. Basically, that was the guy who was doing it before. So yeah, I like that she just like tells Homelander what's the truth, and she even like tells Firecracker like, you can't play the victim anymore. Like, you're actually a victim now, so that's good for you. And so I do like her attitude and her like kind of smarts, but I do want to see, she doesn't have any other powers, right? So you could just kind of kick her ass if you were on the other side.
Yeah, she mentioned last week that it's only her brain that regenerates, which is why she can give herself a bit of a lobotomy and just mash it up, and a couple of hours later it heals itself. Because she was like, if you take out my eye won't heal itself, but my brain will. So if she got shot or killed normally, then I don't think she's coming back.
Interesting.
But if you shoot her in the head, then I think she's done. She would come back. Sorry.
Yeah, that's probably why she wanted to stay under behind the curtain. Didn't want to be out in public.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, so yeah, lots of information going on there. The presenter, I can't remember his name, and obviously the Deep getting into it. With the Deep, like, you got me fired from Crime Analytics because of your report. She's like, I'm going to fuck your wife. I just love the fact that,
Oh
and I've
my
got
God.
gills, so I can go down and not come up for air. I can just breathe through the juices, I believe he said.
Oh my God.
which is a fantastic phrase to have heard, to be fair. But yeah, so gotta love the V52. What I loved about what they've been doing this season, sort of in real life, if you so to speak, is that the websites and stuff that they've created, so you can actually go onto it and look at these things. So there is a V52 Expo website. A couple of episodes ago, they had the Vought on Ice, the skating.
Right.
There was actually an actual website you could go to and look at the dates and the venues where they were going to be doing Vought on Ice, and it says buy tickets now. And if you click on it, it just says sold out. So you can't physically buy tickets, but they've actually created websites for everything this season that you can go on in real life and just look at it. So I love that they've been giving that bit of sort of realism to it, that you can go and click on it and just have a look at the different things. And I saw online as well that Eric Kripke was saying that when they had up on the screen the phases 7 to 10 and every individual thing, he's like, I literally wanted to write a plot for every single film that was up there and be able to describe it to anyone that asked me. So he's absolutely obviously loving being able to do this right now and getting into that sort of detail. So he's like,
little synopsises.
Yeah, so he's like, I've got a plan for every single thing that's actually up there if anyone asks me about it. So, but whilst that's going on, we get obviously a bit of stuff going on with Homelander and Ryan. Right, they're pitching to, or that the Adam director guy is pitching to Ryan about his little sort of like your school program, and he's just like, I don't really want to do this. He seems to have changed his attitude a bit from where he was before, and the fact that he was getting friendly with Butcher again, but it seems to be now sort of wavering back towards, being okay with his father. And that whole incident where Homelander's like, yeah, if you want to help people, let's help this lass out from Adam. And gets him to apologise, and he's like, I don't think you're serious, let's teach you a lesson, and basically gets her to kick the shit out of this guy.
She was down.
Yeah, she was down for doing that. And obviously they gave the impression that Ryan was loving doing this as well, which sets him back on that track to not necessarily being a good guy. Any thoughts about this situation with Homelander and Ryan?
I do. It was very interesting to me because Homelander, I think he realized that he was starting to lose Ryan to Butcher. Like, he was going and seeing him behind his back and acting different. So he's like, I need to try a new form of manipulation. So he's like, I haven't, I'm not mad at you, or I'm not actually mad at you. And he says, I've been manipulated by people my whole life, and I realize I've been doing that to you too. So it was kind of like, it almost got me for a second. I'm thinking, wow, maybe Homelander going back to where he was from and like exercising those demons, even though we see like in the beginning of the episode where he's like having like flashbacks and like eyes twitching and stuff, like about to go crazy. So he's on that line for sure. But yeah, I do like how, Ryan is, I'm not a big fan of Ryan. I haven't been the whole time. He's kind of annoying. He's been annoying to me, but he does switch back and forth a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been a bit wishy-washy and going back and forth with his feelings.
But he's a kid, I get it.
Yeah, he's supposed to be 12 or something?
Right,
like
yeah. Grow up, kid. Come on.
Yeah, come on. In the world of superheroes now, man. Act like it. You already killed your mum, so just get past it. I suppose we should probably sort of talk about Huey in this particular episode. So obviously it finished off last week with the fact that, as we find out in this episode, it was his mum that gave his dad the compound V. And he obviously wakes up at the end of the episode because he was technically brain dead. A lot of questions have been asked about whether Huey's mum was just a hallucination that he was having, and it wasn't.
I like that theory.
It was kind of worked out good theory because he'd been taking Temp V as well, and did he have any side effects from that? I think this episode obviously has proved that wasn't the case, that she was a real person. She slipped the dad the V, he wakes up, everything seemed to be fine. Obviously, he starts getting a bit forgetful, and then we get this whole thing going down where,
oh my gosh,
they find him in that room with the actual heart in his hand. He doesn't seem to know what's going on, and then he freaks out, and it turns out that he can basically phase through stuff. And he seems to forget who he is throughout this episode. Kills a lot more people. He obviously sees Daphne, the mum, and he's like, "You left us," because he sort of thinks that it's years ago, and Huey's still 11. and he goes after her. And then they turn up again, and he looks like he's about to kill her, and Huey steps in and manages to stop him, and they decide to essentially put him down, like he's the family pet.
Yes.
Like he was Jar Jar the cat.
Oh my god, he ended up like Jar Jar.
Yeah. And obviously, so they put him down at the end of this episode. Big moment for anyone, I suppose, to put down a family member. But Huey kind of dealt with it in a mature way, in the fact that he was realizing that, like, okay, my dad was kind of dead anyway, and giving in compound V when you're brain dead has had an adverse effect. So we can't do this. So, a harsh reality for him at the end of the day. He's put his father down. I don't know how they get out of this in terms of like real world breaking the law, because he's just put down a human being and his fingerprints are all over the evidence. So I don't know how he kind of gets out of that in the next episode.
Newman can take it away for him.
Yeah, maybe. But your thoughts on sort of Huey's journey in this episode?
Yeah, it basically kind of showed you can't play God. Like Huey kind of learned at the end. Butcher told him, like if you do this, it's going to be worse than what you're going through now. And it is kind of interesting because Homelander says later that they're going to be gods. So Homelander's literally going to start playing God as well. But it was overall it was rough to watch. Like it was sad. Like you think he's going to die, and then he comes back, and then like after 5 minutes, you can tell something's wrong, and they're going to have to put him down. And he says, like, going back to get the Tech Knight doll at the store when he was 12, and he's like, he wasn't my hero, like, you were my hero, Dad. I was like, oh, man, like, that's so sad, like, just thinking about having to go through something like that. Yeah. So, and then and his mom says, thank you so much for taking care of our boy, like, I'm kind of upset with her that she just left, came back, kind of did something behind Huey's back, but at least she's back in his life.
Yeah, it does seem that they kind of let her off a bit easily. Like her whole excuse of like, I could just tell I wasn't ready. And obviously we know in real life depression affects people in different ways and stuff like that. But she just abandons them and then comes back all these years later and is just kind of accepted back in a way. Like, no offense, but if this was my mother doing that, I don't think I'd be as accepting. But then again, I'm a bit of an arsehole and I'm known to hold a grudge. So I don't think I would have accepted her back as maybe as quickly as Huey has. And the whole thing with like she gave him her old engagement ring to give to Annie. That was all a bit too mushy for me. I'm not down with the mushy stuff too much, and the goodbyes at the end of it, like you said, where he's just like, I can let you go now, Dad, and she was like, thank you for raising our boy, and I was like, it's all a bit too much for me, too mushy. Yeah. I like the gory shit. So
okay. I like both.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously room for it in the story. It's just my personal preference that I'm a bit of a psycho, so it's all good.
But imagine Tom Hanks being your final words.
I couldn't cope with that. It's this whole big speech that the dying person always has to give in these shows. Yeah. It pisses me off, man. I think the worst one ever was the third Matrix film, when Trinity dies after she gets jabbed with all those poles after they crash into the Machine City. That speech she gave was about 15 minutes long.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I don't need
just
that
die.
from you. Yeah, fucking hurry up. I'd have jabbed the fucking things in a bit more. Just fucking shut up already. Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I couldn't cope with that, to be fair. But yeah, so interesting to see where Huey sits for the rest of this particular series after that, because he's kind of been a bit separated from the rest of the boys for a few episodes now after this whole thing. And how he walks back into that and how he deals with it. Will he jump straight back into helping them with the situation, or is he going to be dealing with his own shit? Who knows? But we do get to sort of probably what was probably the best part of this episode. So the boys are like, obviously we get the tie-in from Gen V where Butcher's like, okay, there's a virus that kills soups. The only problem is Newman's got it. We've got to go and get it from her. The only way they can do it is to go and get Stan out of prison. So Giancarlo Esposito returning to the show.
Love it.
And obviously it's just the fact that when he walks out of prison, he's there in his full-on suit and ensemble again. And
shoes from the king.
Yeah. And Butcher's just like, I'll give it to the cunt. He knows how to wear a whistle. And so obviously they go off to like where he thinks obviously they tell him about his granddaughter that she's been injected with V and she's now a tentacle monster. And they go off to one of his homes that he rarely to, and obviously they get there and it's like a gory horror scene. There's like blood everywhere, everything's been smashed apart in this lab, and Butcher sort of sees a rabbit that's being injected with Temp V and releases it. And then Victoria Newman turns up, and they're basically like, right, we've got to find what's going on here because, Dr. Shah had disappeared, or Samir, I think his first name was.
Samir, yeah.
And so they start trying to obviously look around to see what's going on. And they go into this barn where there's a bunch of chickens, and they just find a guy with like a massive hole in his chest. You're like, what the fuck's going on here? And then all of a sudden, boom, another chicken bursts through someone's chest, fucking alien style. God. And they're just like, feed up chickens! And it's like, going around shooting the shit out of them. Tell me what your thoughts were on this scene, because it was fucking hilarious.
It was wild. It was definitely classic boys. And just the goriness was definitely back. I know you wanted that, so that was there for you. And I do like how they're just like arguing the whole time, and I think Stan says, it's a wonder how you've all lived this long. Like, it's just like, how are you guys so lucky? Like, but and it does kind of suck that the plan failed. I do agree with kind of Butcher, like, we should just, I mean, it was kind of fucked up though, where he says, I don't have to be the fastest, I still don't have to be the slowest. And then they're like, Charlotte's like, oh my God, you're so evil. But it did in the end kind of feel like a big side quest for nothing.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, obviously we get this, and we will get to it about what happens with the Doctor at the end, Dr. Shah and Butcher. But obviously just the fact that, they get out of the chicken situation, and all of a sudden like a V'd up bull shows up, and you think, God, this is going to be another great one. And I thought, because the way sort of Kimiko turned around and looked at the bull, that the bull was going to charge them, and Kimiko was just going to go straight at it and just like snap its neck something like that. But then all of a sudden, we get fucking flying horror sheep come out of nowhere. God. Just lift this bull into the air and rip it to fucking shreds. If you were looking for this week's fucked up thing on the boys, this was it, wasn't it? So, I mean, could you think of anything more horrific to throw in there than flying, angry horror sheep? Like, it's just going to rip you to pieces.
Well, it was perfect because you don't think of sheep as these, like, monstrous animals, If it was like a tiger or something, you'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But the sheep and their vicious teeth and the blood soaked all over their, their wool and their faces, and how the CGI was done, like, it was pretty terrifying. Like, it definitely looked like a crazy horror movie that would be on some like random streaming service,
It's just, and obviously they have this sort of big argument about what to do with this last injection of the virus, whether they keep it because it's valuable, whether they inject this dead body with it and then throw it out so the sheep can eat it. I mean, my only issue with that is that they're injecting a dead body, so how does the dead body circulate it through its blood? In order for the sheep to then eat it and die. I mean, it's a very pedantic thing to pick up on.
That's a really good point, actually. I feel like someone would have brought that up, like, hey, their blood's not moving anymore. Maybe they like shook them around a little, like spun them in a couple circles,
just create a little blood milkshake going on in there. That's absolutely fine.
Oh my God!
But that's what they decided to go with in the end. But because they were all arguing about it as well, Butcher gets outed for his original plan that he was gonna give all the files over to Newman in exchange for Ryan being saved from or taken away from Homelander. And everyone's like, fuck's sake, and they're all arguing, and of course MM sort of stands in and he's like, look, you motherfuckers are giving me hives, can we just drop all this shit? He's like, Annie, you can't beat the shit out of everyone you get pissed off with. He's like, Butcher, you're a motherfucker, but you're a motherfucker with a heart. Which at times is true and at times it's not, isn't it, with Butcher? So
right.
But they go with that plan in the end and just toss the dead body out. Looks like the sheep. I just love that bit where the sheep are thumping to get in. All of a sudden, the back door, like to the barn, just opens and just two sheep stroll in. And everyone's just looking at them, and they're just like, "Oh fuck!" And then the sheep are just looking all innocent.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And they shit themselves and run for it, and then they just start dropping dead. After that, sheep vomited fucking God knows what out.
Oh God.
But yeah, so they sort of make it in the end. Although it looks like Samir has been taken by the sheep and killed, and Newman's all distraught because her baby daddy is sort of kicked the bucket. But it turns out that that's not what happened to Dr. Shah. Butcher kidnapped him, chopped off his leg, and left it there to make it look like that was the situation.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
tells him that he's going to have him he's kept him so he can patch him back up and then have him recreate the virus. So the storyline with the virus is not quite dead yet. Just give me your thoughts on this whole scenario with the Veed up animals and then Butcher's plan here at the end with Dr. Shah.
Well, with Butcher first, that look on his face was like almost like a Homelander look, you know, like when Homelander does something crazy and he has that like wild look in his eyes. But you did mention that Mother's Milk moment. That was super clutch from him because he's trying to be the leader of the boys this season. And every turn, it looks to us like Butcher is the rightful leader, like the better leader. He gets shit done. He has better plans. Like MM is kind of like better for the lower level missions, you know, not the big stuff. But yeah, he talked everyone off the ledge like right before chaos was about to start between Starlight and Butcher. So that was clutch for him. And yeah, but with the animals though, it was insane. Like just the next level boys material.
Yeah. There's been a theory kicking around that this Joe Kessler guy, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, that we've seen in a couple of episodes now, been a big theory kicking around that he's a character that he's a hallucination essentially, all in Butcher's head, just like Becca has been at different points this season. And that he's just someone that, from his past, that he's created in his mind to help him make the hard decisions he needs to. So he's kind of got like the theory that this parasite that seems to be in his head, that's giving him the visions of Becca and telling him to fight and to live and to do what's needed. Excuse me. But then this Joe Kessler guy is the nasty side of him that's sort of trying to fight through that and go, you need to do what you need to do. You need to be that badass motherfucker. And there was supposed to be some hint that when he's talking to Dr. Shah at the end, because Butcher turns around and looks at Joe, and like Dr. Shah sort of looks across as if like, who the fuck are you looking at? There's no one there. So it's kind of like dropping hints that,
He did do that.
Joe's all in his head, that he's not really there. Any weight to this, do you think? Or is it just everyone again, sort of like with the Huey mum situation, just sort of trying to throw stuff in there?
I think this holds more weight than the Huey's mom one, especially after this episode. And I do like you said earlier, he might have like a Venom thing going on. Maybe that was like a Venom blast where everything shot out. Yeah, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan could be that kind of Venom character because, you know, Tom Hardy's Venom does it well where it's, you know, two different. He's bipolar, you know, so maybe this is like his dark side, but also he has like an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other shoulder, and this is him. I mean, he has brain cancer, right? Or brain tumor, whatever is going on. So his brain's messed up. He's definitely seeing things.
Because there was that incident as well, wasn't it, where when they're walking through the farm, and he comes across the bunny that he released, who sort of like looks like it's dying, and all of a sudden like some tentacles pop out of it. And he has sort of like a quick think about it, and then he stomps the shit out of it to kill it. Right. But it just looked like that he was thinking, shit, is that what's going on with me? Because obviously, you know, what happened in the episode before, he just blacks out and Ezekiel's bursted everywhere when he wakes up.
Right.
So they seem to be hinting.
Yeah, I kind of had a different thought about that because when he freed it earlier, he let it go, and then Kamiko smiles at him, and he kind of smiles back at her. So I thought like he freed it to like, you know, go live its own life, and then he saw it lying on the ground dying, and he was like, crap, like maybe I can't do anything right. I can't save people, you know, like if I try to save someone, it always ends up bad in the end anyways.
Interesting. I didn't think about that, to be fair. I just thought that maybe, because he saw the tentacles burst out of it, that's what was happening to him.
Yeah.
But I like that theory as well, to be fair, that he's just kind of going, shit, everything I touch, I can't do anything right with in terms of giving it a good life. So, sort of when we get the fact that, you know, it looks like Standiger's being sent back to prison, but after the supposed loss of her baby daddy, Newman pops the fucking the driver's head. It's just brutally done. So, just imagine being the guy that just gets your head popped randomly. And then obviously, you know, takes him away. So he's not going back to prison. He'll be playing a further part, it looks like, in the rest of the series. And then Frenchie has this weird epiphany because he had this long chat with Annie when they're on the farm.
Right.
He's like, do you still believe in God? I just don't think that what I've done can be redeemed because it's just so many things. Obviously, following on with this revelation that he's the one that killed Colin's family and he got the shit beat around by Colin for it. So he goes and hands himself into the police, which I wasn't really expecting. Because technically this guy right now is working, whether it's a covert team or not, he works for the CIA. So
That's true.
imagine this whole thing gets out that there's like a foreign operative that's been hired by the CIA for a covert team that's then handed himself into the police for multiple murders for basically gangs and stuff throughout of his whole life. Yeah, that's pretty fucking hardcore, to be fair, and would be a massive news thing, especially in sort of somewhere like America at this time with that sort of political divide as well.
Tell me about it.
Especially what's going on with you guys in real life as well. But yeah, any thoughts on Frenchie handing himself in?
I wasn't a fan of it. I do get the kind of arc he's going through. He's depressed for sure. Like especially with Kimiko not wanting to kind of have a relationship together, just wanting to be friends. That kind of set him down this path where, I mean, I wouldn't hook up with the guy that I killed. If I killed his family, if I killed some guy's family, I would not. Maybe he didn't. He had to have known, right? He knew beforehand. Or,
seems to be in some sort of way, yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't go down that path. Like that's a dangerous road, dangerous game you're playing. But you're talking about Newman in the Stan Edgar scene. Earlier in the episode when they all get the bloody noses and then she walks in the room. I love that. It's such a badass entrance to make.
Yeah. Just the threat to know that she's there. She's just like, don't try anything stupid. I mean, I wanted to get your thoughts on Newman, actually, while we're talking about her. Is this, it seems to have come out of nowhere that she's essentially invulnerable to any kind of thing, because we've never seen that previously, that we just saw her with her power. And the fact that she has this ability to control blood and pop people's head. And it was obviously more revealed in Gen V as well, that she has this power and that she was talking to Maureen Monroe about it. But we've never seen anything to suggest that she was invulnerable. And obviously at the start of the season, they're trying to kill her and they throw acid in her face. It doesn't affect her, but just shoots her in the back of the head at close blank range and it doesn't affect her. So she's like essentially invulnerable. This is why they want to get the virus as well and test it on her to see if it works at all. I mean, any thoughts on the fact that they seem to be fucking screwed because they're like, and I suppose if Marie Monroe from Gen V has the same powers, she was able to survive a Homelander heat ray eye blast to the chest.
Oh, that's right.
And seems to be the only person that's ever survived that and wasn't cut in half. So this was all sort of new to me this season. I didn't think, from what I recall anyway, there was never information about this. So any thoughts on the fact that the potential vice president / president is going to be pretty much invulnerable?
Well, maybe Marie from Gen V could be the one to take her out because they have the same powers. Possibly she could pop her head, and Newman could pop my head anytime as well.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And she's going out with Jack Quaid, who plays Huey in real life.
Really? That's cool.
They're a real life couple. So I don't know if they met on the show or not, but yeah.
Jack Quaid, the older he gets, the more he looks like his father.
Yeah, this is true as well. Absolutely. Definitely. I think I called him Dennis Quaid by mistake the other day, to be fair. So no, that doesn't sound right. But yeah, so we're going to get an invulnerable. I mean, interesting because again, Marie Monroe seems to be coming to a lot of people's thoughts in terms of because of her powers, maybe she's the one that can cure Butcher of his brain cancer. Potentially using her blood powers somehow.
Okay.
That was something that was thrown in there. I saw as like a theory for this season if they were going to be bringing in more Gen V people.
Could you remind me because we saw the blonde girl and the crazy guy on the stage. What was their story at the end of Gen V? They weren't
Well, Kate was the blonde one. She was the one that basically went nuts, and she wanted to kill she wanted all the suits to be in control and kill all the humans. So she was basically using her powers of hypnosis or whatever when she touches people.
That's
and basically
right.
Sent
She was
all the suits on the university campus nuts and going to kill everyone. And then obviously she basically did the same thing with Sam. She hypnotized him with a touch and got him to go across and destroying everything and killing everyone. What's interesting is obviously the others, like Marie and the guy whose name escapes me, but obviously the real life actor passed away.
Right.
They were actually trying to obviously save everyone and save Ashley and the VPs from Vought that were there.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they called in. That was the funny thing to me is they called in Homelander to help them out in this situation because all the other supes are going nuts. Homelander arrives and he just looks around and sees the fact that Marie's blown up Kate's arm using her powers, and he's like, "Can't be using your powers against other mutants, even though this is the number one dude that kills other." Not mutants, sorry, other superheroes. And then turns around and then puts all the ones that were trying to save Ashley and all the humans into essentially like some sort of vault prison, and then promote Kate and Sam, the ones that were trying to kill everyone around them, to be the new Guardians of Godolkin. It was completely reversed. I don't understand why they did that, to be fair. Maybe they just, especially when they're trying to kill everyone around them from Vought, and they're like, maybe that's why, because Homelander's like, actually, if these people want to kill humans, and that's kind of my goal is for the superheroes to be the gods, I want them on my side. It did kind of, apart from the presentation at the V52 Expo with Sam and Kate, it did feel like when they had them in the room at the end, because that's the final scene I was going to get to, when basically Homelander's making his call to war. But obviously Sam's like, when are we going to know when it's time? And Homelander's just like, you'll know. And then Kate's like, we're with you, Homelander, whatever you need. And it's like, kind of just felt like because they were in the room, they had to throw them some lines, and it felt a bit out of place for those two to be saying that. But basically, this was a big call to action at the end of this episode. Homelander's like, you're not going to be beloved celebrities anymore. It's not going to be about, your rankings and your Instagram numbers or whatever. You're going to have to do some cruel, horrific things to basically bring about what we need. He's like, so if you're with me, you show me now that you're with me, and beat the shit out of this guy who caused the leak by calling Marvin Milk. And it's because it was interesting in the fact that he didn't say to everyone, go and show me some wrath and kick the shit out of this guy. He calls A-Train out first. He's like, A-Train, show me some wrath. And A-Train's the only one that doesn't seem to go over and start beating the shit out of this guy.
Right.
And he obviously A-Train just looks shifty as fuck because he thinks he's about to be outed. This is what led me to believe that obviously I think Sage already knew from her comments earlier on. Homelander's comment here telling A-Train to show him some wrath, that they kind of know that A-Train's the leak here. And that they're just sort of playing him along, they're just giving him enough rope to hang himself, essentially. But Homelander's call to war. What are you thinking about this?
Yeah, this got me excited for the rest of the season, like moving forward and into the final season of the show. It's going to be where these, I don't think we're going to get to phases 10 through 19. I think things might get a little crazy before then, to where Vaught's not making these movies anymore. So yeah, he got Ryan back on his side earlier in this episode, and he's like, all right, Ryan's on my side. We're going to war now. So there's no turning back now.
It seems that way. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. 3 episodes left to go of this season. Any predictions what you think is going to happen? I mean, we've already spoken about a potential A-Train Homelander fight, and an A-Train unfortunately going. Anyone of the boys, because you said that one of the 7 and one of the boys to die. I suppose maybe Frenchie seems to be favourite at the moment to be the one, because his story seems to be coming to a little bit of a conclusion.
Yeah, I would agree. I could see Firecracker dying too, because every time they introduce a new character, they do tend to die at the end of the season. That happened with Stormfront, Soldier Boy. I don't know who season 1 was. I'm sure they're all new, so people died in season 1, obviously. But so yeah, I think someone's gonna die from the 7, obviously. Then I would say Frenchie or maybe Mother's Milk, because he is kind of having this thing where he's talking about his daughter a lot and how he needs to do this one last thing for her, and that he did have that kind of speech in this episode to kind of so he can remember who he is when he does pass. We'll see. Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, Firecracker, she doesn't even seem to be that powerful. We don't even really see that much of her powers, do we? So
like
it's
sparkles
just
or something.
Yeah, she just fucking does some sparkle shit out of her hand, like she's at a bonfire night or something. And it's just her sort of online following, isn't it? And her ability to sort of just spread mistrust and just line her ass off, essentially, isn't it? But I mean, what do you want to see? Because obviously we've only got a season and a half left of the boys altogether. Because I want to throw this out to you in the fact that I think we get Soldier Boy back next season. I don't think we see him this season, because obviously the CIA have got him right now. I think he comes back next season. He's going to be part of the final showdown. they spoke last season, Homelander and Butcher, about they want to have one final battle, the Scorched Earth scenario.
Yeah.
Throwing Soldier Boy in there. We also got the news that Jared Padalecki is going to be probably joining the boys next season, who was obviously Sam Winchester. So if he plays a character that is like aligned with Homelander, and we get Sam versus Dean Winchester at some point as well in season 5, that could also be a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you want to see and for the rest of what we've got left of the boys now, a season and a half?
I'd like to see them focus more on the boys and less on the 7 in the final season, because it's kind of their farewell, and these are the people we actually do care about, the good guys that we've been following for 5 seasons of television. So
Yeah,
I would like them to build up Kamiko and Frenchie and Huey a little bit more, and kind of, I know Starlight she's been like getting beat up this whole season. She beat up Firecracker on national television. That didn't go well. And then just the whole abortion thing and everything. So I think season 5 will be a lot better for her. She'll be on the rise again. And then I can also see Huey kind of walking away from things, but at the same time, maybe just walking away and then coming back in the final season or something,
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good shout. Because you were saying that every time new characters get introduced, they tend to get killed off as well, especially in the 7. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if Sister Sage gets killed in like the season finale. I don't necessarily seeing her playing a big part in season 5, or having the need to anyway. Because if it's all about the descent and the destruction of Vought, and you basically it's boiling down to the boys versus the 7 in a way, then there's no need for Sage to be there, because again,
Exactly.
super intelligence, whilst it's good at planning everything, it's not going to be absolutely superb in a fight. Which again, if she and Firecracker were killed off, that's how we get Jared Padalecki joining the 7 maybe next season, which could be a good shout. So I'm excited to see where the rest of the boys goes. I've been loving it. I can't believe it took me so long to get into it, to be fair. I only started watching it when half of season 3 was out. So I was a relatively new person to it, but I binge watched it as soon as I started and got up with it pretty damn quick. Did you watch the animated show on Amazon? Was it the Boys Diabolical?
I don't think I finished it. But
No,
was it kind of not a what if, but each episode was different, or is it
I think so, because I've not actually watched it either, because that's why I was just wondering if you had, because it's just the fact that I've heard a couple of hints of things that have been pulled from that, or like ideas that were pulled from that and put into this season.
Okay.
And then it's just the fact that Butcher says at some point in this episode things are about to get diabolical, so I didn't know if there was going to be some sort of tie-in or some hint towards their plan from there.
Isn't that what Butcher says? Doesn't Butcher like saying diabolical?
Yeah, diabolical, mate.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. I'm English, and I think Butcher does a better London accent than I do. So I'm about 2.5 hours away from London, and I still can't really do it.
I love his accent, and like when he's talking to Firecracker, and she says, "Speak American, please." Like, oh my god.
Yeah, he does do a good London accent. To be fair to him, so
it's like a hardcore, like old school London accent, though, huh?
It's
strong.
Fair, yeah, definitely. And to have been in it technically as a character, to have been maybe in America for that long and still hold on to that accent, is definitely. And considering his parents don't have that, had a more slightly normal American English accent. Sorry, so definitely the fact that he's got this accent is hilarious throughout the whole way. So I think it was my episode at the start when I did episode 1 of the boys, but it started a few weeks back. I introduced my show and I was like, "Welcome back, you fucking cunts." It's just like my best Butcher impression, because it's just hilarious. God. And I was explaining this to my mother-in-law about what the boys was when I was out to dinner a week or two ago. Because I put the clip up on my own Facebook, to be fair, of me doing that intro. She's like, "That was hilarious." And I was like explaining the context of it and what the character's like, and she's like, "Okay, that does sound absolutely funny, to be fair, for a character." So.
Yes.
Yeah, boys, obviously brilliant show. Like I said, maybe season 4 hasn't been up there. I think season 3 was definitely probably my favourite out of all of them so far. Probably because I also like Jensen Ackles, and getting him introduced as almost like a rogue Captain America type of character was quite good. And even the side bits they did in terms of throwing out like BTS bits that were sort of fake BTS acted, but like
Mm-hmm.
with BTS of Soldier Boy behind the scenes. He's just like, when he's doing that thing, he's like, "Don't do drugs; it's not cool." And then he's
Yeah.
like, "Man, if doing drugs is uncool," he's like, "I am the most uncool person on the planet." Gotta love all that kind of stuff. The boys
Yeah.
do really good behind the scenes with all that stuff, don't they? So,
Mm-hmm.
but we have something else to discuss this week. So we are back onto the Acolyte, episode 5. So again, more than halfway through this particular series now. Probably been the most controversial Star Wars series to date. I don't think I've seen this much hate since the Rise of Skywalker. Okay, not too long ago, to be fair. But it's funny to see how like everyone's saying that the Acolyte has been treated like everyone treated the sequels, and the sequels are treated how everyone kind of treated the prequels back in the day as well. So it's just kind of like, but we know, I'm not going to touch on it too much, but we know Star Wars has one of the worst toxic fandoms out there. I've always been that person that said if there are legitimate gripes about it, then that's fine. I'd never mind discussing that. But just being, I mean, one thing that really pissed me off that I will touch on is, I can't remember which website it was, but an hour before the episode even released this week, it had been giving a 2.6 out of 10 rating.
Right.
So people just review bombing it when it hasn't even released yet, this episode. When that's what pisses me off. That's absolutely ridiculous. But turned out that they were fucking idiots because this week was fucking amazing.
Right? Exactly.
One of, not just, I mean, definitely the best episode of The Acolyte so far, but one of the best sort of half hours of Star Wars I think we've had in a long, long time. By far the best choreography of lightsaber scenes since the prequels.
Agreed.
I think we can say that beyond a shadow of a doubt. The ruthlessness that we saw in this episode was unreal. Sort of mainish type characters being killed off unexpectedly. The reveal of who the stranger is as well. This episode was absolutely packed. What were your general thoughts on it before we jump into it?
Yeah, I was kind of the same as you, where I wasn't totally in love with the first 4 episodes, but it was still intriguing. Like I wasn't review bombing it on the internet before the episode came out. I wasn't at that level just yet. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of episode 4 just because of how short it was, and they're talking about how the writer, they cut the scene of Kalnaka getting killed.
Yeah.
So that was kind of disappointing. And they're not fighting for TV time. This is on Disney Plus. Like, you can make your episodes as long as you want, as short as you want, as many as you want. Like, there's no restrictions to what you're doing. So why have a 30-minute and then a 5-minute this episode was
I think
back
it was
to
exactly
back?
the same length this
Yeah.
week.
Okay. 30 minutes then. So like, I don't understand that. Like, there should be more story to tell than having 8 episodes, 30 minutes apiece. Like, you could tell a bigger story than that.
Absolutely.
But I think episode 5 was amazing though. Like, just the first 20 minutes were just solid action piece after action piece, like nothing in between. So that was definitely what we needed, and the stakes were raised.
Absolutely. I mean, what I'm just going to touch on there, what you were saying about that, is that the person that wrote it, I can never remember her name. It's going to escape me, but she came out and said that this, they did obviously have a whole scene filmed where Kalnaka fought the stranger, the Sith guy, but they cut it for budgetary reasons.
Right.
And I'm like, if you've already filmed it, what's the budgetary issues? Because you filmed it already, you've got the footage. I mean, you're spending a reported 25 to 30 million per episode of this anyway, per episode to do all this. So how have you had to cut this out for budgetary reasons when you've already filmed the action? Okay, you've got to probably touch it up with some CGI, but if you're already committed to spending that much per episode, why do we not want to get to see that? And that would have been a really good thing to throw in there. I think if you, because they said, it was budgetary reasons for storytelling reasons. I do think that if they'd have included that battle in the last episode, the impact that this episode had on us wouldn't have maybe been as great. Because we would have already seen this guy in action, and we would have seen him taking on a Wookiee Jedi that he managed to kill. That's true. Therefore, he may have, I think he killed, 6 Jedi in total in this episode, and 4 of them pretty easily. So therefore, maybe that just lessens the impact he has in this episode if we see that battle in the last episode. So part of me understands, but then I'm like, if you don't come out and tell us it's for budgetary reasons when you're spending 30 minutes an episode. You know, every episode of this show costs double what it costs to make Godzilla -1. So don't tell me it's budgetary reasons that you couldn't do something. If you're telling me it's for story reasons, that's fine. Let me see the whole show and see if it would have been out of place or not. That's fine. But yeah, don't fucking tell me it's money reasons when it's Lucasfilm with Disney's pockets and you've already filmed it. That just doesn't quite sit right. But anyway, this episode, yes, absolutely phenomenal. So kicks off obviously pretty much where we ended last week, which was absolutely phenomenal with, you know, OSHA being sort of frozen solid is either Mary Poppins or Magneto, depending on who you prefer, just sort of floated down to her. And then just sort of like yeets her out the way and then just throws back all the like 7 Jedi with one sort of weird force push of like red dust. And to end it there, obviously, we were all pissed because it was a 30-minute episode last week. But again, it just adds to that anticipation for this week, I think, and then the action that we actually got. So starts, OSHA wakes up, runs around, and she sees one Jedi already dead on the ground, and you see the impact of where he pushed everyone back. And that's where we get some action going in. So he's got his helmet on. I know that last week, or the episodes running up to it, he'd been sort of nicknamed Darth Teeth because of his helmet. After seeing his arms in this episode before the helmet came off, I was calling him Darth Swole because he looked fucking beefy.
He's huge. I did not expect that under the robes, man. He's been working out.
Yeah, he's got some muscle. And we know that the actor himself, or he revealed this week anyway, that he he practiced for 4 months to film this scene, this episode. Crap. So in the fact that, you know, in episode 3 of Revenge of the Sith, we know that Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen practiced for like 6 to 9 months to get their big fight going, and this dude practiced for 4 months to get it all right because they released some BTS stuff and just showed him fighting, and that was really good to see. But he kills Plo Koon's wife, obviously not his real life wife, not his actual wife, but
mom.
Kills the female Plo Koon, who for some reason race escapes me, and then he did that brilliant thing where he's fighting near the Jedi, stabs them through the chest, and then force pulls the other Jedi onto his lightsaber as well for a double kill.
A Sith kebab.
Yeah, literally. That was absolutely phenomenal. And then obviously, I mean, first of all, that opening scene of those deaths, give me your thought on that, because that was such a grand opening to this episode.
Yeah, I loved it so much. I did love that how it started with OSHA kind of waking up in a daze, and then you hear the lightsabers clashing off in the distance. I love that. And this is probably those Jedi's first encounter with a Sith, obviously with a Sith, but anyone with a lightsaber outside of training. So they aren't ready for this, but you can tell that Sol and Jecki are on like another level. Like he trained her to be a badass, but these other Jedi, they haven't been like prepared for anything like this. Like they deflect blaster bolts, they solve crimes, you know, like they're doing like normal Jedi stuff. They're not trained like we've seen others.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on that, because even Yord gets his leg sort of cut down or grazed at one point to sort of knock him out of the fight. And the great use as well of this the band he has on his wrist and his helmet, which obviously we've been told that it's coated with cortosis, which got pulled out of Legends, but has been in the comics for a few years now. And it's a special metal that has the ability to short out electrics. So he's there, like, using his band to hit it, or like headbutting people's lightsabers and shorting it out for a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
that's absolutely fucking unreal as well to throw that in there. So he's got this extra advantage. And Yord said that, you know, his movements make no sense. You can't predict them. He doesn't have a fighting style that they know about anyway, because obviously the Sith will probably have different fighting techniques a little bit anyway. So yeah, you're absolutely spot on that they just don't know how to deal with this. It's not something they're trained to do, apart from when they fought against each other. So, because even when was it a couple of episodes ago, they were talking about, you know, who trained May, and they were like, was it a rogue Jedi? Was it a splinter group that they mentioned about as well? Because I can't remember if it was actually if it's Legends or canon still, but they did talk about the fact that about 1,000 years ago there was like a splinter group that split off from the Jedi as well. But obviously, we know there's multiple different cults and faiths out there that view the Force in a different way. So there's going to be people that can use something in a different way, but they're just so strained on their own train of thought and the way that they do things, and they're just like, and even Sol said to him, he's like, you have a Jedi weapon, but you're no Jedi. So,
Right.
where's that come from?
Exactly.
But yeah, fucking unreal. Just the fact that they just don't know how to deal with this dude. He's just quick, he's fast, he's lethal. He's got no mercy for them whatsoever. And obviously he tries to fucking hunt down May a little bit in this episode. Because obviously she's betrayed him because she told him straight to his face. She's like, I hung you upside down and told you I was going to run away and with my sister. But we do get sort of in this episode as well the May versus Jackie fight.
Yeah.
When she turns up. Again, this was quite a good fight. Any thoughts on their little battle there? Because Jackie ends up coming out on top when, she's gone up against other Jedi Masters and managed to defeat them in combat, but can't beat little old X-23.
Yeah, right. It does make Indara not look so great. Like, she kind of went down to someone who got beat by a Padawan. But you should probably put the second handcuff on before you start reading the Miranda rights to him. Like let's get him captured first.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it though. I think Jackie was like the most surprising part of this episode, especially and her duel later too. I was blown away by her skills.
Yeah, she's definitely been a good addition to the show. I was glad we got to see more of her. I was worried that they were sort of going to keep her a little bit in the background, just kind of like your apprentice. That we see in like the first episode, and then we haven't seen her again since. I was kind of hoping to see a bit more of her. So we get the May versus Jackie fight in the end because, after Soul and the Stranger had a bit of a battle, sort of he disappears, and it turns out he's coming after Jackie and May, and Jackie and him end up having obviously their lightsaber fight, and he thinks he's got her because he managed to short out a saber, and then she pulls out Kalnaka's sort of massive saber. It looks chunky, that saber as well, but it's just so thick. I suppose in a Wookiee hand you need it to be a little bit bigger than a standard lightsaber.
Right.
But yeah, this battle that we get between the Stranger and Jackie. And then obviously Soul comes to jump back in at a slightly later date as well. But the fact that she holds her own against this dude when he's at this point wiped out 4 other Jedi, the choreography was really good as well. Anything else to say about this fight?
Oh yeah, Dave and I were actually talking about that. We did cover this episode. It hasn't been released yet, but people are complaining, oh, how does this Padawan stand up to a Sith? And it's like, there are like prodigies. There's like people who are better than others that just have this natural ability, and she's trained by Soul, who when he comes up to the fight, he's pretty even with him with the lightsaber. But when there's no lightsabers and it's hand-to-hand combat, he takes him out quick, and like maybe channels a little dark side because his Padawan just died. So that's kind of how most Jedi defeat Sith. They get pissed off a little, you know what I mean? But that reveal where it's the 3 lightsabers through Jackie, and then she falls down, and it's just his face standing behind her. Like, oh, that was perfect. So creative.
Well, I mean, it's that little moment as well where he obviously pulls his saber apart, and he has like a smaller part of it that has obviously its own crystal, and so he has 2, and then he just you got the camera facing Jackie's back, and you just see the 3 holes get poked through her. And I was like, God damn. Did not expect that. I thought somehow she was going to get out of this and not die in this episode. But nope, Jackie's gone, falls to the floor. And then obviously, he goes after... that's when we get the reveal, because she basically bashed his fucking head in with the butt of her saber a few times, and the helmet comes off. That's when she gets killed. And then it gets revealed that Khmer, as heavily predicted at this stage, he is the Stranger. I mean, they laid it on so thick, the butter on top of the toast in the last episode, that this was who the Sith guy was. Although technically, still no maybe proper confirmation that he is a Sith, because Soul says, "Who are you?" And he's like, some Jedi might call me Sith, but he didn't call himself a Sith. He's like, "What do you want with May?" And he's like, I want someone that I can teach. I want an acolyte. Right. So the question is still there that we are presuming that he is Sith. He's got a red lightsaber. We've seen in maybe the more modern Disney era that mercenaries that have maybe turned to using the dark side don't have a fully red saber. They've got maybe a slightly more orange saber, like Balin's Skull and Shin Hati, and a couple of others. But this dude has got a full on red lightsaber.
Right.
So I think it's safe to say yes, he is the Sith, because this story was about the Sith in the first place. The question remains, Caleb, is he the apprentice or is he the master? Because if he's looking for an acolyte, we've seen it before in the fact that, I mean, Ventress was classed as a Sith assassin, but essentially she was an acolyte to Dooku, who was the apprentice to Sidious. So what are you reckoning? Is Khmer the apprentice or the master?
I think he said acolyte on purpose because he's an apprentice. And also where May isn't going around with a lightsaber. Like, if she gets caught with this red lightsaber, his master is going to find out. And he's probably not going to be very happy about that. But that is the Sith code or the Sith way of life, where the apprentice gets strong enough where he thinks he's strong enough, and he brings on his own kind of apprentice, and then those two try to take out the master. That's kind of just the circle of life when it comes to Sith. They're always getting more powerful, killing their master, and then bringing on someone new. So I think that's his plan.
Especially since he's been saying to her this whole time, an acolyte kills without a weapon. Mm-hmm. So he's been training her to go after these Jedi and kill them without a weapon, because he needs her to then take down his own master. But this is the point in the story where he's talking about all this, and all of a sudden, because Yor's been off trying to take Osha back to the ship, she's just like, okay, she has that sort of weird voice inside of her head from May calling her back. And so they grab a fucking torchlight, grab the weird bugs, and head back to help out. And Yord shows up at the last second, manages to force pull Qumir's mask to him, uses it to short out his weapon, which seems like a good ploy because he works out really quickly what was happening. But then Quimir just destroys Yord in like 10 seconds, snaps his arm, puts him to the ground, and then fucking just snaps his neck in half and throws him away like yesterday's takeaway. That was brutal.
And that's how you kill a Jedi without a weapon.
Exactly, yeah. So we just showed you don't need a fucking lightsaber to kill a Jedi.
My God.
It was so brutal. I watched the episode again today in preparation for our chat, and I was just like, again, second time watching it, I was like, it was even better watching it second time around, because you just don't realise how quick it was first time. That you just fucking Yor shows up, tries to kill him, and in 10 seconds he's like, nope, fuck you, off with your lightsaber, broken arm, neck snapped. See you later.
And it's Osha's fault.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no.
I like that. I didn't even think about it being her fault that she dragged him back.
Right.
Yeah, completely her fault, to be fair. But and obviously we get more. Obviously, Sol just fucking loses the plot and has that, as he said, that hand-to-hand fight with him, and basically kicks his ass, and is definitely tapping into a bit of dark side emotion there, and is about to cut his head off, and Osha calls out to him and tells him not to. But obviously we get more hinting here that there's more to Sol's backstory, because Quimir had mentioned a few times in this episode now about something going on with him, and his history, which obviously we're now waiting with bated breath, because this is probably the third or fourth hint in this series that there's a deeper thing going on with with his history, especially with maybe Osha and May and what happened with the witches and stuff. So we've got to obviously wait to see what's going on with that. Any predictions of what Sol's been up to? What this big dark history is? I think he's obviously the one that killed the witches, I think.
Right. I think he was just an accomplice or witnessed it and has been keeping it a secret. But I think they've been kind of teasing it out a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Like, it would be okay, but they keep going where, like, Sol's like, once we get back on the ship, I'll tell you everything that happened. And, like, and he's like, okay, I'll tell you now. And then he gets, I think May stuns him with the gun, the gun. So they've been teasing it a little bit too much. Maybe just let it be a little bit after the flashback episode, then come back to it. I do like the Sith's lines where he's saying, where Sol says, "What master hides his face?" and he says, "You tell me."
Yeah.
And he says, "This man is twisted by darkness," and he said, "I accepted my darkness. What have you done with yours?" So, like, he knows these things, and I do like those kind of hints. But where Sol's like, oh, in the next scene, I'll tell you for sure, nothing bad's going to happen, and then something bad happens. So they're going back and forth.
Yeah. And then he gets taken away by the bugs, which was a little bit ridiculous.
Kang and Ant-Man?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Fucking hell. Yeah, it was a little bit that, wasn't it? I've brought down dynasties. I've killed Jedi by snapping their necks, and I'm carried away by bugs. How dare you?
Oh my god.
But fucking hell. And then we get this whole thing with May and Osha have a little sort of face off.
Mm-hmm.
And back to their cringy dialogue, unfortunately, for this episode, for their sort of chat.
Yeah.
And how May. I mean, what's your thought on May's constant sort of flipping-flopping throughout this series? And then at the end of this, she's begging May to go with her again and not choose the Jedi. But even though May joined the Jedi originally and she left the Jedi, she's still sticking up for the Jedi in their chat.
Yeah, the May turn last episode was a little too quick for me. I just didn't felt very earned. Where she's like, I'm Osha's alive. I'm on her side now. Like, I'm gonna turn myself into the Jedi, and it's like, wait, what? Like, you're a pretty dark side. You were killing Jedi and stuff, and now your sister's alive, but your sister is the one you've been mad at this whole time. I thought, like, she thought Osha was the one. Osha was leaving her to start this new life with the Jedi. She was very angry at her, and now that she knows that she's still alive, but she thought she went with the Jedi this whole time. So why would you think she's dead? That was a little odd.
And she wanted to kill her for wanting to leave with the Jedi originally in the first place. And now you're like so happy that she's actually alive and that she was with the Jedi in the first place, but you then want to give up everything for it. Yeah, the term was a bit too quick and a bit like not fully reasoned. It felt like to me anyway. You can understand maybe finding out the last family member you've got is alive and you want to be with her, but let's find out a little bit more about that, because obviously it's not maybe specified how long she's been with Khmer or as the stranger anyway, and training with him. One can assume maybe most of the last period since what happened as they were a kid. But still, yeah, bit of a quick turn. And then also her begging Osha to go in this episode, and then Osha's like, no, I'm going to arrest you for your crimes because you're a snotty little bitch. You tried to kill us all. And then she obviously just force pushes Osha off the ledge, and she's like, "Yeah, you never could block." Oh God, here we go. It's like the power of one all over again. And and then she does this thing where she cuts off her dreads and obviously switches clothes and leaves with Master Soul. This whole thing that Jedi can generally sense people's thoughts and their actions and who they actually are. And the fact that Soul, maybe he was too distraught with the fact that he just lost his Padawan and all the other Jedi with him. But I still thought, would Soul not be able to sense that this isn't quite Osha with him? I mean, what were your thoughts about that?
Maybe just the trauma he's been through this day, watching all the Jedi die, his Padawan die. In the moment, he couldn't sense it, but I feel like, I hope in the beginning of the next episode, he kind of figures it out. But maybe he knows all along and doesn't want to freak her out or make her turn against him too. Maybe he's trying to bring her back to the light, so he's going to kind of play along for a little bit to see how she acts. But the lightsaber haircut, that's very dangerous. And
I don't recommend that.
Wouldn't there be like singe marks all over her hair? Like he'd be like your hair smells pretty burnt. Like, are you all right? Are you okay right now?
Yeah, they didn't have those little white tips on the end of it like you had earlier. What's going on there? They've obviously set this up so because that little sort of rodent tracker, Basil, whatever his name was, he was like sniffing out a little pip droid, and then he's back on the ship as well, and just sort of like he's looking confused, going, "Well, that looked like Osha, but doesn't smell like her." So it looks like they're just setting up that he's going to be the one that tips them off.
But Yord died. Yord's the one that can understand him.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, I'm pretty sure he just yells. It's just alarming, isn't it? It's
like pointing at her.
Yeah. So May leaves with Soul. We'll have to see where that goes. And then we get at the end of this episode, Khmer, manages to slice all the other bugs up, gets himself free again. Goes back, picks up his helmet, picks up his cape, and then goes and finds Osha lying on the ground. Gives himself a little speech because there's no one around to hear him. And Osha's passed out. So I always love it when they do that in TV series and films. It's like there's literally no one here. You're just giving yourself a random speech right now. Thanks for that. And obviously he force heals her as well, which is very much a Disney thing now, letting people heal each other with the Force, or a Disney era, I should say, in terms of seeing it on screen. even though it has been around for a while.
They're really trying to make people mad. Like the people, like the incels who like review bomb. They're like, "Oh my god, he force healed now too! Like I can't take this anymore." But I didn't notice this, but I guess a little Kylo Ren theme plays while he's doing that.
Yeah.
So maybe they're teasing. He does have the Ren style helmet to where he could be the original Ren. That's another theory going around.
This was what I was going to finish with chatting about this, because we get a little bit of that Kylo Ren music at the start of the episode as well.
Okay.
And then we get it at the end when he's doing his little one-man speech. And there. So he's obviously going to maybe take Ocean with him. But yeah, the big theory here is that based on his helmet, that maybe he's the one that sort of starts the Knights of Ren off. Because obviously it was weird from what I've read up about the Knights of Ren is that obviously the leader is called Ren, but the name Ren comes from the lightsaber that's passed to each leader. So the lightsaber itself was called Ren, and they just call themselves Ren after the lightsaber that they're given when they take charge of the Knights of Ren.
Interesting.
But yeah, based on that helmet, it does look very much like it. I've just pre-ordered that helmet as well, because I saw a couple of days ago that there was like a teaser on TikTok that they were releasing a Black Series helmet version, because obviously I've got like the 6 different Black Series helmets behind me. And I just thought it was a fake one because we'd seen it more in these episodes.
Right.
And then literally Thursday, I got the email from Hasbro Pulse that pre-orders are up. So I jumped on there, looked at it, and went, okay, I'm ordering that bad boy. It looks sinister as fuck. It looks sick. So I've ordered that, and it comes out on the 15th of July. So not even that long to wait. So that's going to be joining my collection behind me.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I might actually do my own like video review for that. I don't do that very often, but I think this is going to be a sick one to look at, to be fair. But yeah, any thoughts on this? They're sort of, again, Disney has sort of have done this thing, I keep saying Disney, it is Lucasfilm, it's not necessarily Disney, but they're doing this thing with more modern stuff where they're trying to connect everything through it. So we've seen that from the Bad Batch to the Mandalorian to the sequels, the whole cloning thing. And now maybe sort of adding some deep roots from before the Skywalker saga of the start of the Knights of Ren following through to Kylo Ren. Any thoughts on the way that they're sort of doing that? And is it good that they're trying to make an effort to connect everything along the timelines, or is it just them trying to pander to the fact that not everyone nowadays is completely on board with what they're doing, so they're trying to justify by linking stories together?
Right, yeah, well, the Rise of Skywalker stuff I don't like because they're literally just like trying to fix the movie basically and explain like, oh, Palpatine was there all along. He had this plan about the Exegol and everything. So I didn't like that. And also, it seems like they're trying to get away from the Skywalker saga, but at the same time, they can't. Like, they have to tie it in somehow. Like, Ki-Adi-Mundi wasn't really necessary. Like, they made him older than he was supposed to be. Like, he's like 200 years old in the Phantom Menace now, or 150 years old, whatever it is, which is a pretty long time for him. But, I mean, that's not even my biggest problem. I just don't think they need to tie things in so much. But I forgot something about the helmet. I guess the first chapter in Plagueis, Darth Tenebris is going through a cortosis mine. So that is Darth Plagueis' master. So, and I guess it was either Plagueis or Tenebris had 7 different kind of apprentices at the same time, or 7 different kind of prospects. So he could be one of the 7.
I think it was Tenebris, wasn't it, that he had the multiple apprentices because they kept showing up at different points and challenging Plagueis. I did have an interesting theory on where we sit with Quimir being the apprentice or the master. So it's something I thought about sort of yesterday, and I was like, I don't know if Quimir makes it out of this end of this series alive. If he's the apprentice, which it seems likely he is, and there's been heavy rumours of a season 2 being greenlit. So, because he was talking about the fact that, you know, every person that's seen his face has to die, and we have to keep the whole thing that the Sith have not been quite revealed to the Jedi properly yet, and they don't know about them because of the line from the Phantom Menace. And so therefore everyone that sort of goes in this series that sees the Sith. So that's Soul, obviously maybe the twins. I still think that I can't remember her name, but the green Jedi that we've seen in the series so far.
Venestra or something?
That's it. Venestra Rowe. I think they're obviously building up to a face-off between her and Khmer at some point, because we see action of her using her lightsaber whip in the trailer.
Okay.
But I've got a feeling that Khmer doesn't make it out of this series, and maybe in the last episode we get that reveal that he's the apprentice and his master actually shows up. And maybe he's the one that kills Khmer for failing or for trying to get an apprentice or an acolyte to defeat him. And then that season 2 is focused around someone like Tenebrous being the actual master of the Sith, and him keeping his secret and laying the groundwork and running into then we get Plagueis added into that towards the end of season 2 as well. And that just left us then a hanging note that maybe they do something a later, another series later down the line or something like that.
Bring it to us.
That's my theory, is that Khmer doesn't make it out of the series alive because his master will actually show up at some point and kill him off. And then the master will be the subject of season 2.
Right. Or even the series as a whole ends with Plagueis killing him. Like you think Khmer is this kind of, he wins in the end, he's like on top, and then Plagueis just shows up, takes him out, and it's like, holy crap! Like, okay, now that would be a good way to kind of tie things in. That would be it.
Even if he kept to this one series, he does get to kill Sol at some point. He has this show off against Venestra and manages to kill her. So the whole him having said he was a Sith or whatever is kept a secret. So therefore it doesn't break canon like everyone's been saying. And then Plagueis just turns up at the end and kills Khmer because he's like, I'm actually the apprentice here, not you. And you just see. Plagueis cuts him down and then meets up with Tenebrous, and that's how it ends. And it's all intact and in place. Because obviously technically in canon, we still don't have the official confirmation that Plagueis was Palpatine's master and Tenebrous was Plagueis' master. It's not officially written into canon, even though obviously we've got the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and Tenebrous is named as one of the Sith squads in the Rise of Skywalker, isn't he?
That's right.
Just in the fact that Revan was technically named as one of the squads as well, because they're named after great Sith lords of old. So these people have been named in canon, but we don't know if it's the same character because it's not
the same lineage.
Yeah. So, but I think that would be a great way if they're only going to do one series. Just have Khmer actually win at the end of it, and then Plagueis show up and go, "See you later, buddy. This is actually on me now. It's not you."
Right. That'd be cool.
That would be fantastic, and as a way to tie it in, then he can actually go, "Okay, he is the apprentice right now," and then he becomes becomes Palpatine's master later down the line. Yeah, I love that because it's 100 years before, isn't it? So, and Palpatine's about 60 odd at the end of the prequels. So, he's only going to be born another 40 years. And so, if there's a young Plagueis right now who, as we know from the novel, if they kind of stick to that kind of story, learn to control midichlorians so he could prolong his own life and be old enough to then teach Plagueis in this timeline of 100 years. Yeah. Palpatine, sorry. So, I think that could work. I love that theory, Caleb.
If Kiadi Mooney's around, then Plagueis can be around, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fuck it, why not? Just throw all of them in there. Right. Caleb, thank you so much, buddy, for coming on and chatting about the boys, chatting about the Acolyte. I've loved having that chat with you. First time you got to be on the show on your own, to be fair.
I know,
You're part of the crew that come on. So I really appreciate you coming on. I've been dying to get you on, just you and me, so we can chat about this stuff. What's going on with Why So Serious at the moment? Any big episodes coming up? Because I know obviously you guys, like me, you're covering the Acolyte and the boys, but you guys are also covering House of the Dragon as well, aren't you?
Yeah, that's definitely our main topic because the Acolyte and the boys. House of the Dragon is just on another level. It's just HBO premiere television. I feel like it's prestige. I do like the Acolyte. We have not given up on that. We will be covering that weekly or bi-weekly. We did episode 4 and 5 together, and we recorded boys episodes 1 through 4. So we did the first half of the boys and the last 2 Acolyte episodes. So we're still up to date on all 3 shows.
Nice. I'm still waiting. Dave's been trying to convince me that House of the Dragon's worth watching. Because I've always said I'm not a huge Game of Thrones fan.
Did you watch it?
I only got up to the end of season 5. I haven't seen 6, 7, or 8 for Game of Thrones.
No, that's fine.
And I know that technically, House of Dragon is obviously well before that, isn't it? So I could technically watch it and not sort of need to know the stories having seen the end of Game of Thrones. So maybe at some point. I think it would be low down on my list because no one's really convinced me it's absolutely worth it yet. Even though I do hear it's good, but no one's actually everyone. That's all anyone says to me. That it's a good show. No one's given me a reason to go and watch it yet. If you know what I mean. So
okay, well, the original, you didn't love the original Game of Thrones series. It has, House of Dragons different, but Game of Thrones, it has everything. It has fantasy, dragons, war, politics, drama, romance, action. It has like every single genre you can think of mashed up into one show. So it kind of has a little bit for everybody.
That's fair. I don't know why I just wasn't into it at the time. The only reason I started watching it in the first place, because I didn't watch it when it was on TV or anything like that. The only reason I actually ended up watching it is because me and my ex, or my girlfriend at the time, basically traded off TV shows. She'd be like, I'll pick one that I want her to watch that I love, and she'll pick one for me. So she picked Game of Thrones for me. I really lost out in this because the TV show I picked her to watch was DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which that got shit as it went on. I fucking lost that big time in that trade-off. But yeah, so that's the only reason I started it, and I don't know why I didn't go back after season 5. I just wasn't quite feeling it. But so that would have been when I did season 5 was 2018.
Okay,
so it was a good 6 years ago now. So maybe it's worth revisiting just to see. Or maybe I can give an episode or 2 of House of Dragon season 1 a go and see if I get enthralled to keep going. So I've got a lot on my list. We've got the ongoing shows now. Rings of Power season 2 comes out at the end of August, so I'm going to be on that. I've still got Invincible. I need to sit down and start watching.
I haven't started that either.
And I just keep hearing from other people that's really good as well.
Same.
So I've got a few on my list I need to start getting through. Shogun, I've heard you guys talking about that. That's on my list. That's my next TV show to start, actually. Once Acolyte and The Boys have ended, Shogun's going to be on there.
That's a good show.
How have you been getting on with Daredevil season 2? Have you finished that yet?
No, I kind of fell off. I think I binged too fast, like where I watched all of season 1, then I started season 2, and I was like, because I'm getting into the Punisher stuff. Punisher and Daredevil have met. There was that rooftop scene with them.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, so it's good. Like it's not. I didn't stop watching it because it was bad. I think I just watched too much. Other things started up, but yeah, I gotta finish that so we can cover it.
Because obviously I'm not too proud to admit I begged Dave that when you guys get round to covering Daredevil season 2 that I come on and review it with you guys, because it is probably my favourite one series of all time.
Wow.
I've got it in my definitely top 2, if not number 1. So I pretty much begged Dave straight away. I was like, please, whenever you guys get around to it, I need to meet you there, please. So I can talk about it, because I've never talked about it on this show. Okay. Obviously, we did get that news this week as well, that apparently, technically, Punisher season 3 is in production. So, because obviously they did the first 2 seasons for the Netflix shows, and we know that John Bernthald's reprising his character with the Punisher for the new Daredevil series, Born Again, that's coming out next year. And rumours in the last couple of days have been that they are developing a 3rd series to follow on from that as well. So hopefully more Punisher on the way, because anyone who knows me is pretty much my favourite Marvel character. So I can't wait for a bit of that. But yeah, Caleb, sorry, I got a bit sidetracked there, but thank you very much, buddy, for coming on. Tell us all where we can find the Why So Serious podcast. If anyone who hasn't listened to the show and hasn't seen you, JD, or Dave on here the million of times that you have, let us know where we can find it.
Of course, you can find us on Instagram, X, and we just hit over 6K on TikTok. So Jeremy's it's going up fast too. Like every day you look, there's like a couple hundred more followers. He's doing a
phenomenal job on there with his comic book stuff as well. And I know that I'm the reason he can only do US giveaways now instead of international ones.
A little expensive.
Well, yeah, I think so. And he had a bit of issues getting it out to me. So every time he does a comic book giveaway now, he has to put a little asterisk in there and be like US only. No international. Andy fucking cost everyone. Sorry.
Oh, we just got t-shirts too. So if you guys want t-shirts, we got t-shirts with the new, and you can get an old logo or a new logo on a t-shirt.
I was literally bugging Dave about that the other day because Clan Brandalorian just launched his own merch as well. So I messaged Dave and said, I've got some Lights Camera Rant stuff. Ordered a t-shirt from Clan Brandalorian. It's like, when do I get some Why So Sidious stuff to complete my set?
Right.
And he's like, well, we've been talking about that. So
I think it's on TikTok Shop.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'm definitely have to check that out then, because I need a Why So Sidious top. And that better be international shipping, to be fair. I'll be kicking off otherwise.
They probably make it in another country, so I'm sure you're good.
Probably, yeah. Those little Chinese kids working so hard for all of our podcasts. But yeah, exactly. Find Why So Serious. Instagram, on TikTok. Are you still guys on X as well? You still going on there? You haven't had to pay to post yet?
No, not yet. But just post kind of what episodes are out. Don't get too crazy on X because it's a whole other story. And YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, and get them on YouTube as well. Make sure you're liking and subscribing on there. And to be fair, you can pretty much find Galactic Core Podcast on all those platforms as well, apart from X. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. Give us a subscribe on YouTube, and you can find me on Twitch as well, where coming up in the next sort of few months, I will be doing a bit more streaming on there as well. So you can get on there, so you can be seeing me streaming, as usual, bit of Battlefront 2, which I've been in love with for like the last 7 years. Love that game. Planning on maybe doing a joint sort of streaming session with Clan Mandalorian where we both play a bit of Battlefront 2 together. So that could be really good. Obviously,
do you have PlayStation?
No, well, there is a PS5 in the house, yes.
Okay.
It is technically my wife's, not mine, but we've got pretty much every console, to be fair. We've got the PlayStations, we've got the Xboxes, we've got the PCs, we've got a Steam Deck we bought recently, to be fair. So we're pretty much well covered for everything.
Okay.
So, yep, and obviously Star Wars Outlaws comes out soon, so I was thinking about doing a bit of streaming for that, but obviously I've got a brand new baby due at the start of August, so that might get in the way of doing a little bit of gaming.
Baby be okay.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But thank you very much for joining us. I'll be back next week for the next episode of The Acolyte and the Boys. Thoroughly waiting for now. We've only got a month to go for Deadpool Wolverine. So psyched. I'm going to the midnight premiere as that as well. We haven't had a midnight premiere showing in this country since pre-COVID.
Wow.
So the last midnight premiere I got to go to was actually The Rise of Skywalker. So it's about time I made a good midnight premiere.
Mm-hmm.
Only a month to go for that. Definitely going to be covering that as well as the ending of The Boys. Then I might be taking personally a little break once the little baby arrives in August for sort of 4 or 5 weeks. I've already got in the works some guest hosts to come in and do some episodes whilst I'm away. I have asked Dave, obviously, as I'm sure you know, and Clan Mandalorian has obviously said that he'd be more than happy to step in for a guest episode. So there's people that you know and love, for those that do obviously watch and listen to my show, but it's just to keep the show ticking over and have someone else come and chat to you about some exciting subjects for a while. So keep your eye out for those coming sometime in August. But that's it for this week. I'll be back next week. And as always, until then,
the Force will be with you, always.
Thanks for tuning in to the Galactic Core Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. But until next time, go get your geek on.